Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ NV, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We got a special guest in the building.
My guy.
He's the author of Stillness is the Key, his new book. Ryan Holiday.
What's up, my brother?
Not much. Thanks for having me.
How are you, man?
I'm really good.
It's so hard to be still in this day and age.
Yeah, what is stillness, man, and why is it the key?
It's always been hard, right? There's this guy, Blaise Pascal, 500 years ago. He said, all of humanity's problems stem from our inability to sit quietly in a room alone. Mm-hmm. That's before Facebook. That's before Instagram.
Even before text messaging.
Yeah. They did this study recently. People would rather shock themselves than sit alone in a room with their thoughts for 15 minutes. They'd
Jesus
rather
Christ.
feel physical pain than be quiet and not moving.
You know what's interesting? Like, the only time I feel like I'm disconnected is if I go jogging in the park, right?
Yeah.
But then I also can't do it without listening to music.
I think music's all right. I think
Okay.
music's all right. But what is interesting is that's probably one of the best parts of your day.
It is.
Because you have good ideas
That's
there.
when I come up with all my ideas.
Totally. And so what I was thinking about in the book and what I've been thinking about in my life, if those are the special moments, why am I not, those are the moments where I do my best work, why am I not building my life around those moments? Why am I just letting it happen accidentally? And so I want to be like really intentional about building that in there, not just because it's like spiritual, but because like that will make me better at life.
Are humans really wired to enjoy the moment? Like, it seems like, worry about the past and the future is just inevitable.
Yeah, I think we're the opposite of wired to enjoy the moment. Like, if you think about it, like that inability to ever have enough, to always want to do the next thing, that serves us really well as a species. That's why people go on, explore new continents, and why they, $1 million isn't enough. They got to make $1 billion. So it's good for the humanity, but it's bad. Probably not fun to be Elon Musk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a grind. And it's probably not been fun to be Napoleon or Alexander the Great or any of these people, because there's never enough.
What about Donald Trump? You think that's fun?
I mean, he's got to be having the least amount of fun that any human being on the planet.
I can feel that way about you in a way, though.
How come?
Because you're always putting out books.
Yeah, but what I think of, what I think about is like, I love the process of creating.
Okay.
And the published, finished thing, that's like, that comes out the other side.
Got you.
Right.
That's the byproduct. What I'm not thinking about as I'm writing is like, how can I publish this? How many copies is it going to sell? You got to love the craft of the thing.
And teaching, I guess.
Yeah. And having something to say.
So when do you sit still? Do you sit still?
Yeah, of course.
He was just out there sitting still, waiting to come in.
No, so I got a couple things that I think are pretty practical for people. So number one, I think you get up early. You guys obviously have to do this as part of your job, but the benefit of that is like you wake up before everyone else, so there's less stuff happening.
That's very true.
That's my drive to work. My drive to work is the best. A 45 to an hour, no radio, no calls, nothing.
It's a long drive.
I tell people it's like wake up before your kids. Don't let the kid decide that the morning starts with chaos. Have a little bit of time there. So I think getting up early is important. My new thing is I don't touch my phone. I know you guys had Cal on. I think he's awesome. I don't touch my phone for the first 30 minutes to 1 hour of the day. Like I go straight in to whatever the main thing I have to do is before I see what Donald Trump tweeted while I was sleeping.
Right.
See, my phone has my alarm on it. So the first thing I do is look at my phone, and then I see all the text messages I missed while I was asleep.
So you're starting the day on your back foot. Do you sleep with your phone in your room?
Yeah, because it's my alarm.
So, I mean, look, an alarm clock's like $6. Like, buy an alarm clock.
I'll buy you one for Christmas.
It's just so convenient.
I know.
Can't let other people set the tone for your day.
Yeah, exactly. You want to be proactive. You want to be driving the day, not be reactive and let the events of the day drive you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, you also talk about envy and jealousy in the book and how harmful that can be. Yes, you, envy. You're harmful.
Well, the Theodore Roosevelt quote is, comparison is the thief of joy. If like you go, my job was to have a radio show. My job was to be a best-selling author. You get that, and you think, this is awesome. And then you go, but this guy sold 10 more copies than me. This isn't good anymore. It's the comparison that takes away the enjoyment of the thing that we earned. And so what I try to think about is like, I want my success to be defined by things that I control, and then everything else is extra. So like I feel like, so this book came out this week. I feel like I'm not perfect, and I don't think anyone is. I do care about the results, but I feel like I already took 90% of my winnings off the table before release day. Because like I know I put all the work in. I know I said what I wanted to say. I know it's the best I was capable of.
Right.
And then so where it hits on the list, how many copies, what that first check looks like.
You did your part.
I did. And so my definition is mostly what was I capable of, not what this like the New York Times list is a committee. That it's not objective reality. None of a Nobel Prize is not an objective reality. None of this is, right? And so I'm not going to hand my satisfaction and my happiness over to these people. And like,
plus it's not based on actual sales anyway.
Not at all.
You just hit the list, right? Like,
I'll know Wednesday. I mean, I've hit the list a bunch.
Okay.
But like I'll give you an example. My book, which I think is how we connected, The Obstacles Away. That book sold like 1 million copies. It hit the bestseller list for the first time 5 years after it came out. Wow. That's not an indication of objective reality.
Right. That doesn't even make sense.
And like if you think about in history, think about all the super talented people that didn't get the awards or the recognition they deserved because they were black or they were Jewish or they were a woman. Like the idea that you're going to let success be defined by people who have their own agenda is really shitty and not a good. Sorry, am I allowed to say that? It's not a good idea. You're taking your happiness and you're handing the control of it to somebody else.
But do you have kids? You have kids, Rob?
I do. I got 2 young kids. I got a 3-year-old and a 4-month-old.
Now, see, for me, and I don't know if Charlamagne feels the same, I look at my parents and I see them had to do jobs that they necessarily might not have loved, but they did it because they had to support their family. So for myself, thank God I'm doing a job that I love, but I want to keep it in my family. I want to make sure that my kids always have the opportunity to do what they enjoy and not necessarily focus on the money, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason why we get stressed out and it's hard for me to sit still sometimes because I always think of them.
Sure. But what I kind of took from my parents that I think helps me in my job, because I get to do my dream too, is it's like they saw it as a job. So like I'm not gonna be like, oh, I'm not feeling it today, or like, you know, like I show up and treat this like a job. Even though I love it, it's like it's work. Yeah, it's work, and and how the ethic I bring to it is a reflection of my character. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of people get spoiled by whatever they have, and they're like, oh, I'm not feeling it, or like, no, it's like, it's a job. You got to treat it with respect too. So
what's crazy with that though, you can build something, but what if your kids don't want to do that?
Yeah.
What if your kids don't want to be in that field, or they don't want to be in the business that you built? What if they want to go, do their own thing?
But, it's a nice security to know that you always have something that you can fall back on.
Sure.
And that financially things are set up for you. Because I think that's a deterrent for people financially. If you have nothing to fall back on and your parents haven't built anything for you, you can't really sometimes.
Yeah, but I think that's the biggest thing, having the finances so your kids can be free to do whatever it is they really want.
Yeah, that's what I want. I don't care if my kids take over my business. I just want them to be free to feel like, hey, if I want to work in sanitation, fine, work in sanitation.
Right.
Like you don't have the stress of, damn, I got to do this, I got to that. There's something else that the family is bringing in that can always help.
Well, that's the real estate things we were talking about earlier. Is like what I think about creatively is like, it's like I want to be free creatively to pursue whatever I want,
right? And
that's why it's really important that I, live below my means, that I build wealth, that I have sort of passive income streams that allow me to take risks. My publisher didn't believe in my first Stoicism book. Understandably, it was a crazy idea,
right?
But I was like, all right, whatever you want to pay, I'll take, because like I don't need this to put food in my mouth.
Correct.
Right.
And that's what I love.
Yeah.
It was all about the art. It wasn't about what you think will do well. It's what I feel will do well.
Yeah, you want to be insulated from the short term, because like think about bands, like the trends change and it's like they got to chase that trend. I'm wearing this Iron Maiden shirt. There's a quote from Lady Gaga. She was like, people are like, are you the next Madonna? She's like, no, I'm the next Iron Maiden, because Iron Maiden's been doing the same thing for 40 years. Right. And they own I saw them in San Antonio last week, 20,000 fans in San Antonio. They've never been on the radio. They've never been cool. But they own their market and they own their people and they do what they do.
That's dope.
And probably because they've been smart financially, they don't need to chase like, oh, disco's cool, we're going to do a disco album or whatever. You don't want to be in that position. That doesn't make good stuff.
Well, now, what's your journey been like to Stillness? Because I'm sure coming up, you had your own issues that you were grappling with to make you come to realize how stillness is the key.
Yeah, I think one of the things I took is I've been thinking a lot about is like no amount of external success will make you feel good internally. So a lot of times ambitious people, they're like, if I just do this, I just get this, like dad will be proud of me.
Right.
But it's like, you can't earn that. If you don't have it already, you're never going to get it, you know? Or you want to prove people wrong, or you want to shove it in their face. Or you just think like, if I get this, like I'll be worthwhile as a person. And that's where like the therapy comes in. That's where the mental health stuff comes in. That's where, you know, so I've had to do a lot of work there. And the other thing I've been thinking about is like, you don't make good decisions when you're just doing. Like early in your career, you got to say yes to everything. But there comes a time where it's got to shift.
Absolutely.
Because now you got more opportunities than you know what to do with. And if you don't do that, that's when you agree to that thing that takes your eye off the ball and then someone steals your spot.
I love this quote in the Find Confidence, Avoid Ego chapters from Colin Powell. He said, avoid having your ego so close to your position that when your position falls, your ego goes with it. Expound on that.
Well, so people go like, the number one rapper in the world, that's my value. But that position changes. You trade it off, right? And so if your identity is tied up in an external result, it's like what we're talking about. Now you're worried about losing it all the time. Like I want my identity to be in like the work like that I know I'm capable of. Like I know I could start over tomorrow and get back to the quality of the work. I might not be able to get the same moment or the same looks, but I do know like I can produce, right? And so you don't want your identity tied up in these external things. Like if you're feeling good because you got an awesome car, what happens if that car gets repossessed, right? Or you're riding high because the market's riding high. Well, now, you know, Donald Trump suddenly has control over whether you're good or not.
Right.
You are not your things, basically.
Yeah, no, you're definitely not.
Could you tell people what Satori is?
Oh,
am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah. It's that.
Say it again.
Satori. It's where you get in meditation when you get that sort of flash of insight. It's like when enlightenment hits.
How do you get there?
I think you get there with quiet, you get there with thinking, you get there with work. You know, people think like enlightenment is this thing you buy in a box or you can take some psychedelic and you magically, no, like wisdom takes work, you know, you got to work, you inch your way there and then suddenly it hits you. And so you got to put in the work. You got to ask people questions, you got to challenge yourself. I'm sure you're going to therapy for months and months and months. And then one day it just clicks. That's what that moment is.
I feel like sometimes stillness and silence makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Especially like if you're sitting here, like imagine we're just sitting here and nobody's saying anything. Even there was a song that you talk about in the book.
Oh, yeah. John Cage, he recorded a song kind of as a joke, but it's really powerful. It's called 438, and it's just 4 minutes and 30 seconds of nothing. And when he performs it live...
How does he perform it?
So the instructions in the song are like you go on stage and you perform a disciplined action. The point is like it actually takes discipline to not move and not do anything, but the song is the noise that the people make when they can't sit there in silence. He's like, you can hear the people streaming for the exits. You can hear the people nervously talking to themselves. So that silence is super important and it's so rare. Like you were on an airplane this morning, right? Like you watched a bunch of people do everything they could to avoid silence, right? Like I got to watch this movie. Yeah, I got to watch this movie. I got to talk to myself. I got to.
Well, on the red eye, everybody wants silence.
Everybody wants sleep.
They definitely want silence on the red eye.
But you know what I mean? Like we can't be alone. We can't be alone because then we might have to question decisions that we've made or relationships that we're in or the direction our life is going. And people don't want to do that.
By the way, that's why I like stillness in an interview. Like if you ask a question, and a person has to sit there and think about it for a moment, let that silence happen.
Well, that's the tool you learn as a journalist or as a writer. It's like you ask someone a question and they're struggling with the answer. You want to like interrupt. But it's like, no, let him hang himself a little bit. Let him dangle.
Let him go.
Yeah. And you got to do that to yourself a little bit.
I like what you said, too, about Satori. You say no one can get to Satori by focusing on what's obvious or by sticking with the first thought that pops into your head. I feel like that's 90% of the content on social media.
Yeah.
People just say the first thing that comes to their head instead of thinking about it.
And they never think, like, I'm going to regret this. I think we're seeing this in sports, too. Somebody's pissed after a game. They rush to Twitter to say what they thought, what they think, or how they feel. And it's like, dude, feelings are passing. Like, feelings are ephemeral. Like, now your relationship with this person is defined by this thing you said to millions of people. And, there's a Stoic quote, it's better to trip with your feet than with your tongue. You cannot unsay things.
Right.
You can get back up after you fall, but you can't unsay
That's
things.
why I've always been really cautious about what I do say and what I put out there. The trick that I do is before I react to something, I count to 10 backwards in my head. If I know that I'm going to say something that I might regret later, or you want to get it off your chest right away, because some people feel like restricting yourself from saying those things is not a good thing. Like you have to say it, say what you feel, you're censoring yourself. But I feel like sometimes I might not feel that way tomorrow.
Depends what it is, because like you said, if I've actually thought about it, and it's not an obvious thought, like it's something that nobody else has brought to the table yet, I'm bringing it to the table.
But if you're angry at somebody and you react, I don't think that's always the best reaction.
I've never once been glad I lost my temper.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm never like, I'm glad I did that. I'm glad, there are times I'm glad I stood up for myself, but it wasn't when I was doing it out of anger. It's when I thought about it, So what I think, one of the tests I use, I go like, what if I didn't see this? So somebody sends me this email and I go like, what if my phone just like ate it and I never saw it? If I didn't respond, would it matter? And so I go like, I kind of use like deliberately like just pretending I didn't get stuff. Like if I didn't see this tweet, would anything change?
Oh,
No.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why I stay off Twitter.
Of course.
Because I don't want to be reactive all the motherfucking time.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you're not making the world a better place like yelling at people in 140 characters.
No. Now, I like to slow down, think deeply, Chapter. You break down what Mr. Rogers taught kids to do.
Have you guys seen Mr. Rogers lately, the TV show?
I saw the documentary.
If you remember the intro of the show, what's the first thing you see? It's a flashing yellow light. Like slow down, man.
Yeah.
And that's his energy. And like I think about it now because I got
he's mad. I'm thinking about it now. He was mad, slow, folding his jacket, sitting down. To all
he wasn't slow. He was just going his own pace.
But
strolls
that
in the house.
pace
He wasn't from
compared
New
to
York,
other
you can
people.
tell that.
He's from Pittsburgh.
Right.
But you compare that to like most kids shows, it's like, wait, why am I teaching my kid to be like a hyped up spaz? That's like the opposite of what I want. Like, so I love that slow energy. And if you think like that famous thing that goes viral from Mr. Rogers every time there's some horrible thing in the world, he's like, so this is scary and bad. It's a shooting or it's 9/11 or he goes like, look for the helpers. He's like, think about the good, like he's slow down. And look for something positive.
That's why New York. That's why always the energy in New York is whack.
Yeah,
super fast.
Everybody going so fast for
Nobody
no
slows
reason.
down.
I have to slow myself down when I leave New York. I remember when I first really started traveling and going places, and I'd be so impatient with everything. Like even just getting my change back, I'm not even in a rush. And you're like, oh my God, what's taking them so long? And I have to consciously be like, okay, Angela, everybody is not in a rush. I talk fast, I move fast, I do. And sometimes I have to force myself to just slow down.
You know what I think? I go like, where am I rushing to?
Right.
This isn't going anywhere.
Even when you're driving and you have road rage. And I think that's important too, because people do make a lot of...
I stopped that 5 years ago. I used to have road rage.
I don't really have road rage anymore because I have to always tell myself, worst case scenario, I'll be a little late.
Now, people are killing each other now. That's why I don't do road rage no more. They'll kill you for cutting them off.
Well, and if you could ever catch yourself like in the mirror having some road rage, you're like, this is so lame. This looks pathetic, Like,
who am I yelling at? Myself? I'm the only one who can hear me.
Giving somebody a finger, F you back. But stupid.
Right, totally.
I love 112. That's my favorite chapter in the whole book.
Which one is that?
Beware desire.
Yeah.
When you talk about John F. Kennedy, and you say a person enslaved to their urges is not free, whether a plumber or a president.
Yeah.
And you talk a lot about John F. Kennedy and how he would treat people and react in situations.
Yeah, talk about the Beware Desire chapter.
Yeah, so on the one hand, Kennedy is great, right? In the Cuban Missile Crisis, it's all about self-control, discipline, but also he cheated on his wife during the 13 days that, like, instead of being home with his family, the world's about to end. He's like, let me hook up with a college girl. That's not power. That's slavery. You know what I mean? Like, that guy is not in control of himself. That's what addiction looks like. And eventually, like, we think we can keep those spheres of our life separate, right? Like, I think Tiger Woods is a great example of this. Like, best golfer in the history of the game, maybe one of the best athletes of all time. And he thought, well, but over here I can be in chaos and I can do bad things. But eventually
it caught up.
They crash into each other, and one destroyed the other for a decade. He lost a decade of being the best in the world because he couldn't check his desires. And so you want to go like, if I actually get this, what you don't think about like how it's going to feel having sex. You think about that period right after you have it, and you're like,
the guilt, the lying that you're gonna have to do to your significant other. Yeah. So if you can flash forward, you go, okay, I don't need this. This is my mind lying to me, saying that this is going to be amazing, and it won't be.
Sometimes you think you have to experience that to know that.
Yeah, of course, and that like sometimes you got to get that award or make that money or do that accomplishment, and go, oh, it's not what I thought. And then that gives you some ability to be a little bit more cynical in a good way about that stuff in the future.
Right.
What I found so interesting about that chapter though, like JFK, that desire was passed down to him from his father.
Yeah, you got to work. Like, he had a father who cheated on his wife. He had a father who told him, like, nurse grudges. He had a father who told him, like, you can get away with whatever you want. And so we can pick up bad habits from our childhood, and that you got to do that work. Because what happens is you get from your dad or whatever that, like, you're only powerful, you're only a man if you do X, Y, and Z.
Absolutely.
And that's not true. And so you got to be constantly checking those assumptions because they come from a different time, a different era.
Absolutely. Well, Stillness is the key is out right now.
Yes.
Give me
Ryan
Instagram
Holiday.
and Twitter and all that good stuff, right?
At Ryan Holiday. Also, I got you something. We're talking about Russian.
Brother.
This is a ring I wear, but I think you'd like it.
Wow.
Memento Mori. I got one for you too.
Memento Mori.
Memento Mori, right? So we're talking about like where am I rushing towards? What we're rushing towards is death, right? We all die.
Ooh.
So let's slow it. Let's slow it down. I don't need to get through this interview to
Right.
go on to the next one. I don't need to get my change. Like every moment is a moment.
Time is valuable.
Yeah, one of the quotes that changed my life, Seneca, he said, like, death is not in the future, death is right now. Every second that passes belongs to death, right? Like, so as things are passing, as you're rushing through life, because you think you're dying, like we're dying.
So let's stop looking forward to the weekend.
Right, no, look forward to
Right.
forward to enjoying this, whatever it is, even if it's stuck in traffic, even if it's bad weather. It's like, because this is it, and this literally might be it. It could be the last thing.
Live every moment like
Absolutely.
it's your last, baby.
That's why I say all the time, people be rushing, like, are you in a rush to die? Why are you speeding for?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? What are you walking fast towards? Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Like, slow down.
Slow down, enjoy it, make the most of it, and be present, right? If you're worried about the past, if you're dwelling on the past or you're worried about the future, what you're not doing is seizing and getting the most out of whatever this moment is.
Word.
All right.
Stillness is the key is out right now. It's my man Ryan Holiday. It's the Breakfast Club.